From the Leone Broadcasting Corporation Television, this is Good Morning Leone, the program that always starts your day. I am Sheku Smiler. Our quote of the day is from an American journalist, and it says, "You are betraying your whole life if you don't say what you think and you don't say it honestly and bluntly." Let me just go through the quote once again, and it is from an American journalist, Charles Palmer, and it says, "You are betraying your whole life if you don't say what you think, and you don't say it honestly and bluntly." Coming up in this edition of our program, Good Morning Sierra Leone, civil society gives their perspective on the presidential town hall meeting to be held in Makeni tomorrow, Tuesday, 30th June 2026. And also in this edition of the program, Good Morning Sierra Leone, the country's anti-graft agency, the ACC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, or Commissioner Francis Ben Kaifala, marks 8 years in office. What are the pointers? Well, somebody from his public relations is here to tell us more. All these and more lined up in this edition of the program, Good Morning Sierra Leone. You can also be part of this program by sending your text to the number you've seen on your screen, or you follow us on our social media platforms. Well, we are on slbc.sl, that is Facebook and other platforms. This is Good Morning Sierra Leone, and I'm Sheku Smiler. We are back, and the program you are still watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone, live from Broadcasting House, New Englandville in Freetown. Now, the annual presidential town hall will take place in Makeni tomorrow, Tuesday, 30th June 2026. The president will answer questions from citizens across the country on issues of governance, tripartite global development, and his legacy as president of the Republic for 8 years now. The program is organized by the Ministry of Information and Civic Education to bring the government closer to the people as a way of enhancing democratic accountability. The venue is rotational. The first was held in Freetown and the second last year in Kenema. This is Makeni's turn. According to officials from the Ministry of Information and Civic Education, the town hall meeting is strictly by invitation. But what does the public and civil society make of this presidential town hall meeting? Well, in the studio we have Jeremy Bensimbo. Jeremy is the Acting Executive Director, Center for Accountability and Rule of Law, CAR. Good morning, Mr. Simbo, and welcome to Good Morning, Sierra Leone.
Good morning, it's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, yes, presidential town hall meetings are held, as part of democratic accountability. And the one in McKinney is just one. The president held it first. The first one was held here in Freetown here. And now, when McKinney, the president, was not there physically, but he was represented by no less a person than the chief minister. In Kenema, he was not there physically, but he was represented by the chief minister. Now in McKinney, we are, according to promos, trailers going on, he's going to be present physically. But then in the two previous presidential town halls, as civil society, what's your assessment? Do you really think the purpose for which those town hall meetings were held, those purpose was actually achieved?
Yeah, in the democratic dispensation, that's just one means you expect the presidency to at least give account to the citizens of this country with respect to his stewardship. So for me, I see it to be very relevant. It's so timely, and it's something that I really doff my hat to the Ministry of Civic Education for convening, and also to the presidency who accepted to be in McKinney tomorrow. I hope we will be there. Now, when you come to look at the town hall meeting that people we're expecting to be held in McKinney tomorrow, that's expected to be held in McKinney tomorrow, first and foremost, I really want to advise that this the proposed town hall meeting in McKinney tomorrow, be concentrated largely on governance and not party politics. Let it be really concentrated on governance and not party politics. Yes, granted, President Bio is the leader of the SLPP. And SLPP is the current party that's now in government in Sierra Leone, and he is the leader. And equally so, President Bio is the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, Commander-in-Chief and Fountain of Honor. So he will be in that meeting tomorrow, not as leader of SLPP, but as President of the Republic of Sierra Leone.
But then how do you divorce the two, especially in this, now that we see politics all over the place? You see, people decline intentions. People want to be flag bearers or whatsoever in their political parties. But the thing is, there are times when a particular political party is in governance, it is very difficult for you to, sometimes dichotomize, governance and party, because it is the party that is in power. So it is very, very, very difficult.
So that's why I hope it will be properly managed tomorrow. At the moment, President Bio will be seated tomorrow in that hall as President of Sierra Leone, not as leader of the SLPP. He will not be in that hall. There's period for campaign has already declared it. Like for example, the ECSL. So we are attending that meeting tomorrow at least to provide stewardship to the people's country, to the citizens of Sierra Leone. So I expect him to be there tomorrow at that meeting as President of Sierra Leone and not as a leader of SLPP, because he's not be attending an SLPP function tomorrow by himself. But beyond that, I also want to see, let's see a situation where, for example, the conversations at that meeting will likely focus on national cohesion and peace, trying to at least bring peace and national cohesion to the people's country, because President Bio is our president. And let's come to think about it. When you come to think about the political landscape of Sierra Leone, McKinney, they say, is the heartbeat of the APC in the opposition party. So if President Bio is going to attend the town hall tomorrow in McKinney, I want to advise even the people of McKinney themselves, let them see that event as a government event and not a political event.
Now, Mr. Simbo, for the fact that everybody knows that McKinney is the stronghold of the opposition, the APC, and if only, participants were broadly selected, broadly in the sense, inclusively selected, don't you think there are some people who will be asking political questions?
So that's the reason why I'm preparing the stage. And I hope, that must have been done by the organizers themselves, the Ministry of Information Education. It's not going to just be open just like that to each and everyone. In your intro, you did say that meeting will be exclusively for invitees. Yeah. If you're not invited, you don't go there. That's one. And second, as much as you'll be invited to attend that meeting, your mind should also be prepared that I'll be attending such a meeting for X, Y, Z reasons or purposes. You understand? So that's why I'm saying, let them manage that meeting in a way that party politics maybe should not, take supremacy over governance. But let's discuss issues in respect to, for example, governance. Let's say, for example, national cohesion, peace and national cohesion. He's the father of the nation. Let him to enlighten tomorrow on peace and national cohesion. Okay. Part of the reasons why President Bio is expected to do this town hall meeting tomorrow in Makeni, for example, is a way to at least give account to the citizens of his country. It's a way to tell us about his stewardship. So if that is what he is going to account for, his stewardship, yes, as president of this country, voted for. Now, and the expectations of the people. Now, in the first place, before somebody becomes president, according to our constitution, the person belongs to a political party. Yeah, and it is that political party that is going to draw a manifesto promising the people of that if we became, we are going to do A, B, C, and D. Yeah, and now it's time for you to go and account. Democratic accountability. You are going to account for your stewardship. Don't you think there is no way you can easily divorce party promise to that of governance promise? I keep saying, and I keep reminding you and the viewers out there, that President Bio is expected to be seated in the hall tomorrow as president of Sierra Leone, not as leader of SFPP. He will not be discussing issues with respect to SFPP. You understand? But issues regarding his stewardship, issues regarding governance, peace and national cohesion. That could be one thing that I really expected from President Bio tomorrow. The second one is, for example, let's say respect to human rights and the rule of law. Let's talk about service delivery, for example. President Bio made 3 major promises way back from 2018 and 2023, as the case may be. He promised Sierra Leoneans 3 main things. One, he promised us that he was going to fight lawlessness or minimize lawlessness in Sierra Leone. The second thing he did promise was that he was going to fight with what? Corruption. And the third one is poverty. So let's ask him questions with respect to those 3 areas that he likely promised this nation on. And not just asking about questions that have to do, for example, with about his political party. No, that's what I'm saying here. So as president of this country, let's talk to President Bio tomorrow. Why is it that the roads to Makeni are so terrible? Those roads will only become paved or amended when President Bio is due to travel to Makeni. But then what if, Mr. Simba, what if a question is asked, for example, in your party manifesto, you did say you are going to do ABC. That one has to do with governance. And yes, it is governance. Yes. But it was a promise made by a party. Yes. Yeah. By him. If you vote me, you understand, based on the reasons, but based on my party manifesto, these are the things I will deliver for you as a nation. So let's ask him with respect to the promises that he made, the promises that he has in his manifesto, his party manifesto, rather than asking him about issues that will have to do with SFPP. No. So let's try to see where the dichotomy is. Okay. Let's devolve, let's try to at least divorce, sorry if I may use that word, party politics from governance. So in other words, are you suggesting that what the promises made in the manifesto should not be, or much attention should not be paid to them, rather it has to be probably the medium-term national development plan? Is that what you are suggesting? That's what I'm suggesting. Okay. The promises made by President Bio in his manifesto these are all promises that we're not expecting him to, Sierra Leoneans are looking forward to. He did say he was going to minimize what? Corruption. Drastically minimize poverty. And also what? Drastically minimize indiscipline. So you see, so let's ask questions with respect to those ones. Okay. Why is it that our services, for example, the health sector, we still, with all of the huge amount of money with respect to donor support and government interventions, we still struggle with our health sector? Okay. Those from the people of Makeni tomorrow. All right. And before I land, please, let's also ask President with respect to the construction process. Rather than being personal, let's ask questions that will have to do with national development. You did say in your manifesto that you are going to provide us a progressive constitution before the end of your tenure in office. What's happening to that process as we speak? You understand? What's happening to the fight against drug, for example? Why is it that the fear Sierra Leone still continues to have one of the highest level of fare in sub-Saharan Africa. So these are some of the questions I expect from the Prof McKinney tomorrow.
But then now, this trying to divorce governance or from political party. Now, for example, when these politicians will be speaking tomorrow, because I know that a good number of ministers will be in McKinney, in as much as it is a presidential town hall, but the ministers will be there. So it is like every road leading to McKinney today, tomorrow, as the case may be. But the thing is that when these politicians are talking, they always add their political party to whatever achievement that has been done by government. For example, the APC government, the SLPP government. So in that particular light, there is no way politics will be divorced from whatever that will be happening in McKinney tomorrow.
That's why I'm saying, I already said, it should be managed. Not only for President Leone, for example, and even those who will be attending the session. If they want to ask questions, let them ask questions that will have to bear on what? The promises that were made by President Leone in his manifesto. Let's ask national questions. Questions that will not only affect people from McKinney, for example, but the average Sierra Leonean. Why is it that the cost of living is so high in this country? That one has nothing more to do with politics.
Okay.
Let's say, why is it that the roads from McKinney are not properly paved? They can only be well paved when President Leone is due to travel.
But what if the politician says, for example, now it is the SLPP. The SLPP government did ABC and D, and somebody is to ask questions, and the person says, no, the SLPP government said they were going to do ABC and D, which they've not done. You understand? So these are some of the things that happen in gathering of this particular nature. Don't you think so? If probably people are there who probably, we started talking about broad selection, of participation of participants. These are the questions that people will ask. You said that your party will do ABC and D, and that your party has not been doing it. So there is no way politics, will be avoided in this particular circumstance, because we are heading to elections. Now, as you can see, politicking has commenced. That is just the fact. So we expect this particular town hall to be another political gathering. Don't you think so?
No. So if that town hall at McKinney tomorrow is expected to be a political gathering, then I'm sure they will be missing the point. At that gathering tomorrow, President Leone is expected to at least give account of his stewardship to Sierra Leoneans. That's just it. With respect to the manifesto promises that he made as leader of his political party. So he will be tomorrow, at least at that meeting, as president of Sierra Leone, and not as leader of the SLPP. That gathering tomorrow is expected to be a political gathering. It's not.
Okay.
The gathering is expected to be the president of Sierra Leone talking to his people with respect to what? Giving account of his stewardship to this country. Second, what are his legacies?
All right.
What should people remember President Leone for after 2028?
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. He is the acting director of Center for Accountability and Rule of Law, Jeremy Simbo. Continue to stay with us, and he has been talking to us about what he expects of President Leone in tomorrow's presidential town hall in McKinney. Well, tomorrow, Tuesday, the 30th of June 2026, the president is going to engage. He's going to be asked questions. I mean, critical questions by citizens, by way of democratic accountability, accounting for his stewardship as president of the Republic of Sierra Leone for 8 years. And the program you are still watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone, live from a broadcasting house near Englandville in Freetown. Now it's time for us to advise ourselves things that we must do and things that we mustn't do for us to remain healthy, which is why in every edition of this program we bring you the health tips. And into these health tips, we take a look at what is basal body temperature. Tracking what is basal body temperature is a method of natural family planning. Taking your temperature before you get out of bed each morning can help you determine which days of the month you are most likely to get pregnant. Let us have a look.
When you're hoping to get pregnant, there are a few ways to start tracking your fertility. You could use ovulation predictor kits or track your menstrual cycle using a calendar or an app. But did you know that taking your temperature each morning can help too? This is called the basal body temperature method, and it can help you determine which days of the month you're most likely to get pregnant. It works like this. Each month, your ovaries release an egg in a process known as ovulation. The days leading up to ovulation are known as your fertile window, the short period of time when pregnancy is possible. Knowing when you ovulate can help you identify your most fertile days. That's because after you've ovulated, your body temperature rises just a little bit thanks to a rise in the hormone progesterone. Tracking your body temperature, then, can help you figure out when ovulation occurs. To use this fertility tracking method, you record your basal body temperature, or the temperature of your body when you're completely at rest, for at least 3 menstrual cycles. This can reveal patterns that will help you guess what time of the month you usually ovulate. To do it, you'll need a special thermometer designed for basal body temperature. Keep it on your nightstand, and on the first day of your period, take your temperature as soon as you wake up, before you even get out of bed. Continue to do this every morning until you get your next period. For the most accurate results, take your temperature at the same time every day. To record the results, you may want to use a graph or a fertility tracking app that allows you to compare each day's temperature. Your goal is to figure out which day of your menstrual cycle your temperature usually rises. When you see higher temperatures for at least 3 days in a row, you can assume that you've ovulated. Most pregnancies occur when intercourse takes place during the 3 days leading up to ovulation. But with the basal body temperature method, you won't know you've ovulated until it's already happened. That's why it's so important to identify patterns over the course of a few cycles, because it can help you understand when you're likely to start ovulating each month. And that can inform when you have sex in order to try to get pregnant. Doctors typically recommend having sex every day for the 4 days before you expect to ovulate. Keep in mind that it may take a few cycles before you start to see a pattern, especially because basal body temperature only rises about 0.5 degree Fahrenheit after ovulation. You may want to combine the basal body temperature method with other fertility awareness methods. This will give you the best chances of understanding your menstrual cycle so that you can reach your goal of achieving pregnancy.
We are back, and the program you are still watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone, live from a broadcasting house in Englandville in Freetown. So now you see the importance of testing your body temperature before leaving your house. Well, probably for some who have the facility, they can do it. But then in Africa, what is very difficult to do is to go for regular medical checkup. But then it is imperative that we do some of these things to keep ourselves healthy. However, we continue with the program, and the program you are still watching is Good Morning Sierra Leone, live from a broadcasting house in Englandville in Freetown. Now we go to the fight against graft, that is corruption in the country, which is why the Anti-Corruption Commission of Sierra Leone was established in 2000 as an independent institution to lead in the fight against corruption, especially in the area of control, through prevention, investigation, prosecution, and public education. It has powers to investigate and punish corruption in addition to other related tools useful to detect, suppress, control, and eradicate corruption. Well, for over 25 years, the ACC has been working assiduously to reduce, prevent, and fight corruption in the country, from asset declaration to national anti-corruption strategy, prosecution, indictments, payback monies misappropriated, among others. The ACC has done its full bit. Well, the current commissioner, Francis Ben Kaifala, assumed office in 2018 after the election of President Julius Maada Bio. Now he is marking 8 years in office. At the time, public confidence in anti-corruption institutions remained fragile. under the leadership of the commission, evolved from being perceived by many as a passive accountability body into one of the most assertive public institutions in Sierra Leone's democratic history. Investigations intensified, prosecutions expanded, asset declaration enforced, strengthened, and integrity management committees became active across MDAs. Well, in the studios to talk more on this, for the Anti-Corruption Commission celebrating its silver jubilee, 25 years. So that is a lot. But then now, you are also celebrating 80 years of Francis Ben Kaifala as the Commissioner of the Anti-Graft Commission. Now, Sylvanus Blake is Deputy Director of Public Education and Outreach at the ACC. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Sheku. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so now tell us, in the first place, 25 years down the line, what are some of the pointers? How has the fight against graft been? We see commissioners come and go, and we see that in 2000, was it 2000 and it was 2000, was it, when was that, 2008? There was an amendment to the Anti-Corruption Act, which gave you prosecutorial powers. Down the line, commissioners have come and gone. Tell us, how has it been 25 years in this fight against graft?
Thank you so much. So we started from where nothing existed as an independent institution to lead the fight against corruption. What we had before ACC came into existence in 2000 were embedded in other institutions, largely the Sierra Leone police, to address issues that had to do with smuggling, issues that had to do with financial crime and all of it. So since we had an independent institution to lead the fight against corruption, it started. Normally, as anything new can start, there have been challenges, there have been lessons to learn, and we've been able to grow over the period into, as you cleverly read in your introduction, from a lame or sleeping anti-graft agency to one that is now recognized, one that is being admired, and one that is providing lessons to her neighbors near and far, especially on the continent of Africa, as to how far we've been able to grow and to contribute to the accountability space. The ACC and its leadership has provided leadership in the fight against corruption, not only on the homeland, but across the world. For example, our commissioner has been the president of the National Anti-Corruption Agencies of West Africa. He's currently serving on the African Union Advisory Board on Corruption. He has been all over at global level, contributing to models that we have been able to roll out so well here that others are saying, we want to know how you are doing it. For example, when it comes to asset declaration, we are leading by far, not only in Africa, but across the world. We've continued to record over 97% compliance when it comes to asset declaration among the category of public officers who must declare. And we've been able to use that information to not only prevent corruption, but to hold people accountable.
But then just a few days ago, this accountability, democratic accountability Mr. Simo was talking about, just a few days ago, no less a person than, the monarch, the King Charles declared his tax returns, which is very strange. So, for example, now, that asset declaration, why is it that some certain offices are not made public so that people know that this person came with ABC and D, so now he's now in affluence? What has happened over the years? People in higher places, I mean.
So, we have to go by our laws. The law we are now working with is saying asset declaration is in private and in confidence. So it might be a morally good argument to say, let's make the declaration of especially politically exposed persons public. But then the law is what it is. black and white. The Anti-Corruption Commission will be committing an error in practice.
But if you have to suggest, not now as a worker at the anti-graft agency, but if you have to suggest, would you suggest that a review be done so that that particular aspect be addressed? Where in certain public offices, asset declarations must be made public by virtue of whatever office we are talking about here.
In my capacity, I cannot suggest. I always say, let them give us laws that we can work with. What we have is what we are working with. Remember, the law was reviewed in 2008, and the law was reviewed again in 2019. And in all of those stages, at any time there is a review, the gymnastics do not include us. We are end users of the law. The political space is organized, and the democratic space is organized in such a way that there is clear role assignment and role differentiation. We are an outfit of government. We are not a civil society group. We don't advocate. We lead the fight against corruption. We can lobby. We can engage. We have had dialogue sessions with CSOs, prominent CSOs, and Carl, my elder brother here seated, is one of those. So those engagements can be vital, but we cannot tell government which law they can give us. In fact, our role is not that. However, as we grow, as we learn, we see lacunas, we see gaps in the law, and those who play the advocacy role can pick those things up. If there's an opportunity today to reform the law, the legislative committee can contact the ACC. In those engagements, we have contributions, we will make them. But because the king made a public declaration of his tax returns, does not equal to any politician, political leader here making. If they can do it on their own, fine, they can. But when they declare with us, it is to be kept in confidence. That's what the law has said at this stage, and that's what we are working with. However, being kept in confidence does not presuppose that nothing happens. For example, over the years, any person who is the subject matter of an investigation, as long as you are in the category of those who should declare, we go for a asset declaration. So we have instances where people are being investigated for a substantive issue for which we did not find anything culpable, but then now we now look into the asset declaration and we found out that they did not declare, or they've been hiding or amplifying their wealth and all of this, and we go after those wealths. The most recent is the case of Abu Kamara, the fugitive from NRA. We wanted to get him, we didn't get him, but his asset declaration was with us. We now did a profiling of him. We found out that he has so many businesses.
No, it is good that you
and we are selling like 3 or 4.
It is good that you brought that up. You know, the question is, yes, it is a house in controversy. This magnificent building we saw, which was displayed on social media and other platforms. Now, has that house been sold so far?
The process is on. It's far on. It's a public auction. Once we conclude the auction, once the auctioneer brings his hammer, and we will tell you it has gone out, and we'll tell the state the price at which it went out for.
So it is that there is this mad rush to buy?
No, whether there's a mad rush or not, auctions are, especially as in this case, a court-ordered public auction, you must follow the order of the court. It doesn't mean that people are coming madly, you go and sell madly. No, you follow due process, because again...
What is the level of interest? I mean, people...
it's high.
Because it's high. That, we've seen in the past, a government will come, seize property. When that government is not in office anymore, another government comes and then, can try, gives out. That it has been happening. We've seen that, right?
No, let's come. We have grown as a nation. We have a jurisprudence that is very strong. The ACC is not an SLPP ACC, neither an APC ACC. It has been here for 26 years now. The judiciary that if anybody has a judgment against him or her, and you want to challenge it, the court is there. You don't wait for election. These things, as a nation, we have to grow beyond.
Somebody will tell you also, Mr. Blake, that the executive has, the influence to manipulate.
I want to see
to manipulate the judiciary.
I want to see the executive that will come and overturn a corruption case. I want to see that
they will advise their partisans to launch an appeal. And they go to appeal court.
Thankfully, one of the issues we are discussing this morning is how far the leadership of Francis Benkefala has been.
No, we're coming to that. Want to build a foundation. How has the fight against graft been since its inception 25 years ago?
And thankfully, Sheku, on the issue of appeal, I'll tell you that I've been at the commission for like 16 years now. I've not seen the commission lose appeals up to 2. So it is safe to say at this stage, we are a law enforcement agency. When we have valid court instructions, we go by them until instructed otherwise by the same competent court or a court of higher jurisdiction. There is no foreclosure. If you think the judgment against you is invalid or can be legally not sitting well with you, go to the court. We are selling those houses and returning the money to the state.
Right, okay.
If anybody wants to challenge...
Okay, now I know that if you have to explain about the fight against corruption, for the past 25 years, the issues are many. But let us come down to the celebration of 8 years of the stewardship of Francis Benkefala. In the first place, let me just congratulate you for that, for having clocked, 8 years in that office, Francis Benkefala. Congratulations on the successes you've made. Now, to you, Mr. Malik, 8 years down the line, what are some of the things that you can point at to say, okay, under the stewardship of Francis, this is ABCD we've achieved so far as a commission?
Thank you so much. So I also want to use this opportunity to thank His Excellency the President and the people of Sierra Leone, because it's the first time we've had a commissioner who has gone 8 years in our 26 years and is one of the fewest in the world to have gone into a second term, and on the continent of Africa is the only one who has gone 8 years and is still producing result. Someone in Cameroon went more than 8, but that's a whole argument. It's a sovereign state. I don't want to bother too much about that. So 8 years down the line, what are the pointers? One is leadership stability. If you wake up thinking and fearful that anything can happen, I'll be sacked tomorrow, I'll be relieved tomorrow, you are intimidated to take bold and concrete steps. But he was appointed on the 28th of June 2018, and in 2023, when the mandate of His Excellency was renewed, he was the first to be reappointed by the President, His Excellency. That speaks to a repository of confidence in him by the #1 man in this country to continue. And that reposition of confidence gave him further impetus. Where are we 8 years down the line? In 2018, when we brought PLO Lumumba, the former Kenyan Anti-Corruption Commissioner, to a public lecture at Frobe College, many people asked, why are you bringing him? And the commissioner said, we want to draw a line against corruption. And we drew the line. And those who want to be on the side of the state, they are with us. Those who chose to be against the fight against corruption, we can ask them how it has been, because we've taken the fight against corruption to the corrupt in a manner and fashion never seen before. There is no one person who has an accountability question to answer that has to do with corruption in our mandate that have not answered. We have held people accountable, institutions accountable. We've had over 95% conviction rate in the past 5 years. We've recovered over 80 billion old loans through out-of-court, non-conviction based asset recovery. Those monies have been given back to the state. You see the periodic handing over checks to His Excellency the President. We are leading by far in asset declaration, corruption prevention. We've had over 400.
Now, Mr. Blake, with all the achievements, the fight against corruption in the country, how do you react to accusations that the ACC boss or the Anti-Corruption Commission is cherry picking, in terms of prosecution? They go after political opponents, those in the previous government. That is one of the accusations that I know you must have heard, that you are cherry picking, as to people you target for corruption and all the rest of it. How do you react to that?
I will react by saying, show me the data, because I won't go by that argument. I won't speak too badly to say it's a lie, but it's not the truth. And when it is not the truth, it's something else. So, if you look at those who've recovered monies from, I'll give you like 10 names in the past 5 years. And all of those people, we don't know their political party, but these are accountability issues that came up between 2023 and today, or last year. When we recovered money from the wife of the former clerk of parliament, Madam Abibatu Parana Tarawali, banned her from holding public office. We don't know her political party, but that corruption happened now and we dealt with it now. When we recovered money, billions, that from Ministry of Finance, personnel, SLRA, through a community bank in Kabbalah, that happened in 2024, 2025. I don't know their political parties, but that did not happen in the former government. When we investigated Mr. Jaya Kaikai on the issue of his vehicles and verified that the vehicles we are given by an American citizen who said Mr. Kaikai was his lawyer in the US and has been giving him those gifts, we verified from where he purchased the vehicles in Dubai. The invoices were there. We came to the public when we probed the entirety of Parliament on the issue of their constituency allowances, the development fund, their offices, and brought a report and said many issues are wrong, and we worked with Parliament to correct those issues. We don't care about what political party.
But then how do you also now, apart from
I can go
now, how can you describe the relationship between the anti-graft agency, I mean the ACC and a bunch of Parliament, especially the Parliamentary Account Committee? You know, it's issue of who vets first, the Auditor General's report, you know, and over the years you've been struggling with that. I don't know how healthy your relationship is. I mean, the ACC and the Parliament of
no one
of the country.
They are not sick, we are not sick, so the relationship is healthy. They created the ACC and gave us a mandate. In all fairness, by constitutional provision, Supreme Audit reports belong to Parliament. So we can manage the relationship. Our own demand is always, when we say we are holding people accountable, we should hold them accountable. So when we are looking at 8 years of Francis Benkaifala's leadership, we hold brief for our part. I mean, we, like I said on the sister program this morning, a state is like a football team. It's a system. You can find a team as rotten as any one team. Even under relegation, they have their star player. They have a player that did well. So in a system like this, the ACC will always look at itself, and we want the public to assess us based on what we can do and what we've been able to do. We have a mandate. We can't solve all the problems. We are not in charge of everything in this country. We are to hold people accountable. Are we holding them accountable? Personally, I would say yes. Anybody want any debate, any day, anytime, social media, mainstream media, by the grace of God, we are here. Let's come and discuss the issues. You can't tell me that we are only running after opposition people. Since 2018 to date. And we are still, even last year, in December, there were convictions, about 4 fights, and none of them happened to be a matter that will come before 2018. These are all arguments cooked up, machinated for other objectives. And the ACC has no other objective. The ACC is not going to form the next government, but the ACC will be part of the next government to lead the fight against corruption. I could be there. Colleagues have been there. We've been there all these years. I was there in the past government. We've been seeing how we are progressing as a nation. And this is what we have to do as a state. There are things that we must divorce, taking the cue from Mr. Simbu. Let's divorce statehood from politics. Fighting corruption is for the survival of this country.
But divorcing statehood from politics, you know, it is like it is endemic. It has become.
Does that make it right?
So it doesn't.
So let's change it.
It doesn't make it right. But for that to happen, there must be, serious, intentional, public education.
Like what we are doing this morning.
It has to be intentional.
Like what we are doing and what we all have to do. Because whether we like it or not, The political events are just calendar activities. They come and go. Whoever wins the next MP for my constituency will have a job to do. If you go speaking ill of your country, blackmailing your country, spewing the non-truth to be the truth, and then tomorrow you are in governance, will you be able to go back to the records and change everything overnight? This is why information management is critical. In every country there are issues, but every country wants to put forward. Nobody opened his photo album and put his accident photo or when he was admitted as the first photo. You put your graduation, your wedding. There are good things happening in this country. Let's speak about those things, and those things that are not right, we'll come back home, we wash our dirty lilies inside, and then correct ourselves. But to come and say we're only running after opposition, how many of them are in jail? Since they
But I know you must have had that, right?
We've had this from 2018. But then where is the evidence? No evidence. And academics, and that's why when the commissioner ordered this said, intellectual dishonesty is what is disturbing this country. Intellectuals, people who read, you can go to our website. Every one person from whom we've recovered money, their names are there. Go and tell me that all of them are APC.
But then, you don't do that. Have you done enough public relations to let people know these people? Because the thing is that probably people don't know. If, for example, if somebody had paid and that person's name is published, people know that APC person was was investigated for APC and now we've been able to recover. Because what we see is that you only do symbolic recovery presentation to let us no, what I'm saying is that the names of those from whom monies have been recovered.
So when EcoBank, Mr. Salim, and some other person paid 36 billion, we actually took the money to our conference room, packed it there. It's my first day to see money in that quantum. And people came and saw, and EcoBank is there to see, and Mr. Salim is there, his photo as a wanted man is on the website. What accountability again? All the people from Ministry of Finance, SLRA, that paid the money, the press releases are there, their names are there. There is a difference between somebody not knowing and somebody deciding not to know. Some people have decided
but the thing is that
they will not know.
If you look at our population, you and I know that we have a lot of people who don't have access
to the media.
To the media.
Okay.
You understand? You go to the fakais, you go to places, people by now they are in their farms, farming.
So
yes. So these are people who don't know. So the question is, how effective is the outreach so that people know exactly what the anti-graft agency is doing? Because there are times people don't know, and when people are kept incommunicado, they form opinions for themselves. So
the commissioner, whom we have called again the People's Commissioner, and again the dangerously educated man, is 8 years in office. In his 8 years, he has gone to every district in this country. Twice. We are just concluding the second link, where he did not speak to the intellectuals. He spoke to the paramount chiefs and the traditional architecture of leadership in every chiefdom in this country. And we have outreach officers. We are one of the most entrenched public service delivery institutions. Jeremy here, they worked with us with the Pay No Bribe campaign. We train animators in every chiefdom. Till today, we have platforms for them. We are now implementing projects with World Bank, UNICEF. You know the SSN, PSSNYE. We have community monitors. There is no one chiefdom in this country where you can't find somebody who knows how to get to the So we go to these town hall meetings. We hold these social accountability town hall meetings. We have just concluded the Southern Region tour. The commissioner sits in these meetings. He speaks in the local languages. Where he cannot speak, we interpret for him. We get a local to interpret. And the chiefs come, the women come, the elders come, the physically challenged and specially able people come and ask him questions. And in some of these meetings, when we told them that these monies you see, we are not acting film, these are physical cash, we used to just present the check. But they say, no, it's a dummy check. Now the money is packed and the check is done. So we will continue.
Yes, thank you so much. Let me just go through the papers quickly. I'm here is MC Barnes Blake, the Deputy Director of Public Education at the Anti-Corruption Commission. Well, 8 years of the stewardship of Francis Ben Kaifala as the Commissioner for the Anti-Corruption Commission. Now I'll start with the Standard Times newspaper, which says protect one woman's land, protect every Sierra Leonean's rights to property. And that is in the Standard Times newspaper, and it also says why Chief Justice Kumba Commander's commitments to assets recovery could define Sierra Leone's fight against financial crime. Now, from the Standard Times, I move on to the Calabash newspaper. Calabash newspaper says Labour Ministry extends work permit enforcement to airports, seaports, and land borders, beginning today. Ambassador Fanditoge hands over RNU Leadership Fellowship following 2 years of institutional transition. That is the Maritime Unit in West Africa. That is where he has done this. He was a chairman for 2 years. Also with the Calabash newspaper, Sierra Leone celebrates 25 graduates from Russia universities. 10 qualify as medical doctors. Well, from the Calabash newspaper, I move on to the Awareness Times, which says foreign McKinney is set to host President Bill tomorrow. That is talking about the town hall meeting, the presidential town hall meeting. Landmark donation boost breast cancer screening in Sierra Leone. Well, these are some of the headlines I can bring to you for now. But then quickly over to you, Ben Simbo, the acting director of the Center for Accountability and the Rule of Law. Now, the town hall meeting tomorrow, and President Liu is expected to answer questions, and people are expected to ask questions. What are likely to be some of the questions that will be asked to the president tomorrow in a few seconds?
I know people will be talking about the bread and butter issue. They'll be also talking about the energy issue. You know, I came back from McKinney, I think 3 weeks ago. They'll also be talking about the roads leading to McKinney, with respect to even the internship roads. The road leading to the McKinney Government Hospital is also a serious issue. They'll be also talking about education. Somebody just spoke of education when we were on your sister program this morning. You know, so we are expecting those kinds of questions. They'll be talking about the drug-related issues inside them. They'll be talking about national cohesion. Somebody spoke of peace, that there should be national cohesion. And President Liu, being the father of the nation, I think should really be prepared to speak in that regard. And so also, people are saying that they will not want to see a situation where the president will be kind of ring-fenced. You know, where the questions will be skewed according to their perceptions. People have already been identified to ask certain questions, and for those people who have not been identified, will not be allowed to ask questions. So that's some of the expectations coming from the people that your sister program spoke with this morning. So for me, I think yes, we want to see this situation being used by President Liu as a kind of, you know, an accountability to give stewardship to the poor, his account of his stewardship to the poor country. Let it be very fair, let the convention be very open, you understand? Let it be a friendly one kind of. I keep saying we really need to manage, it should be well managed as to that of party politics and governance. Let it be prepared to respond to questions with respect to the manifesto promises that he made. Okay. You understand? The fight against corruption, poverty, and indiscipline in Sierra Leone. So do you expect, I mean, every government official, I mean ministers, cabinet ministers to be to be there tomorrow? No, I don't really think it worth it. Let those that are, you know, those concerned ministers or agencies who expect them to be there, and not the rest of the government. All right, okay, thank you so much. And he is Ben Simbo, the acting director, executive director of Center for Accountability and the Rule of Law. Quickly, Sylvanus Blake, deputy director of public education at the ACC. 8 years of Francis Ben Kaifala at the helm of affairs at the ACC. In few words, you know, how can you describe these 8 years?
Sustained, progressive, and personally I would say, I cannot say I was not expecting this, but I am mesmerized at his courage, dexterity, determination. He's addicted to results in such a way that sometimes I personally tell him, how are we going to say no, we will. So we have not won the war against corruption, but to see a young man leaving everything behind him to fight the cause of 8 million people for 8 years, it's a huge sacrifice. But
quickly, also in his 8 years, we understand that as you speak, a good number of your colleagues are in China, you know, still pursuing some kind of capacity in the fight against corruption. Is that confirmed?
Yeah, sure. We did put out news items on that. He has created a lot of opportunities for personnel under his tenure. I went to the law school and read and became a lawyer. Not all employers will tolerate that. I was a staff when I started reading, and they gave me study leave with pay to go to the law school for almost a whole year. So
he's also interested in capacity building.
Oh yes,
okay.
And the GIWI, the 30%, Jeremy and others are asking for women empowerment. SEC has close to 50%
women
at management level. We have offices in the regions. We have 5. 3 are manned by women, female directors. And
well, I think the SFDC also does that.
Well, I am speaking for my. So we have far exceeded. He has created so much opportunity.
Right. Okay.
And you see, if you see him and his deputy enjoying this level of no issues, internal rank or whatever, it's because they have a team of staff whom they've been able to bring along so well. And we all wake up wanting to serve the nation and to support our leaders the more.
All right, okay, thank you so much. And here is MC Vladas Blake, the Deputy Director of Public Education and External Outreach at the country's anti-graft agency, the ACC, the Anti-Corruption Commission. And you had Simbo. Mr. Simbo is the Acting Director or Executive Director of the Center for Accountability and the Rule of Law. Well, this is how we say goodbye. It has been good morning, Sierra Leone, which came to you live from the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation Television. Many thanks to the entire production team, especially producer Daphne Zainab Kamara. I am Sheku Smiler saying goodbye and have a pleasant day.
As a mother of the house, whenever I want to prepare palm soup, there's no need pounding palm fruit. All I need is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. My soup is done, and its preparation, it is not difficult at all. Nkulenu palm soup base, it's easily done with no difficulties. Just take few ladles and your soup is done. And its flavor, it's amazing. This is Nkulenu's Ghana's original palm soup base. And this is Nkulenu's Ghana's original spiced palm soup base. Iron fruit and turkey berries are naturally added.
Also available brown gold natural cocoa powder, sunny gold brown sugar, neat fufu flour, shito, pisa, and moringa. All available at Nyami Ado Enterprise, 1 Lower Waterloo Street, Freetown.
Nkulenu palm soup base.
Ghanaian original taste.
I run a small logistics company. Every cent counts. I didn't think I needed a fuel card until I got the Cornex fuel card. Now, I track exactly how much fuel my fleet uses, in real time. And when my wife or kids need fuel, no cash, no stress. It's safe, accepted nationwide, and I control how much goes on each card. At the end of the month, I see the savings, real savings. Cornex fuel card. I didn't know I needed it. Now, I can't run my business or family without it. Fuel smart, live smart. Visit any Cornex filling station to sign off, or any Cornex office to get your card.